Well, it was just never a thing for me, I don't stutter.
Yeah.
Like we all have our own things.
I get that.
It's actually not true. I do stutter sometimes, but I don't want to.
That's okay. Yeah, try not to take any like. I feel like I could like it's kind of all tapped out.
I have an interesting. Tell me if you connect to this at all. I have an interesting thing that when I stutter, and when I stutter, I mean just people stutter, And I do know that sometimes,
like when you see like a script in Final Draft, and then it says character, and then it says bracket stuttering.
Yeah,
and then,
stammering. That's usually stammering.
Stammering. Though. Yeah, I know. It's like that's British stuttering, but yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I actually see my.
That's right. That's playwrights trying to. Yeah. That's screenwriters trying to be playwrights.
In English, it's screenwriters.
Oh, sorry.
When I'm anxious, sometimes the stutter it comes, and when I stutter and or say the wrong word,
how do you feel? Oh,
fine.
Oh, okay.
Like sometimes it'll take me a minute to get something out, and I know the other person heard it, and I heard it. I don't acknowledge it, not because I don't want to, but in a similar way. I talked about this recently on a podcast where if I'm typing to you or even dictating, and the wrong word comes up, the wrong to instead of too, and I catch it. I don't do too asterisk.
Really?
If the context of the word, what's that?
It's a bold way to live.
If the context might be misunderstood, I'll amend. But if I do y-o-u-r instead of y-o-u-r-e, and I know the difference. If I do who instead of whom, I know the difference.
When you're texting to someone else?
Yeah, and sometimes
that's a reckless way of living, Rick. I can't.
You'll correct it.
I can't. Yeah, I can't.
But
I can't.
Here's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The only reason I'd be correcting it is to show you that, ooh, look, I know I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because in the clothing and all the other stuff, like if I'm doing what I mean for better and for worse, like that's the best I could do. And if I want to dress this way or wear a certain thing, or either a sweater if I'm cool guy Rick, or sweatpants if I'm athletic Rick, those are the only two.
Yeah, okay.
You just do the thing.
Right.
And if people are like, oh, this fucking coward's trying to dress, be like, he's better than us, and he doesn't know, when to use whom.
And that's athletic Rick.
Yeah.
Ever said athletic? Athletic?
What is that connecting? What is the meaning of that?
Like just pushing athletic and Rick together. Have you ever
athletic?
Athletic? Yeah, I see why. Because now saying it out loud, that's like it's fucking stupid.
Like Matthew Broderick.
Yes.
Because he's a guy and a girl.
Right. Like he's one of the hybrids.
Yeah, broad and
and broad
Rick.
and thin. So when that's what I find to be fascinating about stuttering is like I just had it so bad for so long that it was like, damn, that's a stutter. I mean, that's a stutter.
What would you call that? Like, is that a disorder? Is it a like? Is there a term?
It's cancer.
No, seriously.
Oh, seriously, you're asking? Okay,
yeah, like because. Can I give an analogy real quick?
Yeah, I love your analogies.
Thank you.
Yeah. Your analogies are like, go ahead.
I often say I'm like the Michael Jordan of basketball. So I have obsessive compulsive disorder. And some people don't have that, but they'll want something facing a certain way, or they need to have a certain thing, and they'll be like, ugh, it's my OCD.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
But that's not what OCD is.
Right.
So like conversely, I'll stutter sometimes.
Right.
I don't have a stutter.
Yeah.
Or more specifically, and that's what I'm asking, what is it called? Like, yeah, I could be compulsive sometimes, but it's not obsessive.
Right.
For me, it is.
Right. And I would say I'm compulsive, but I don't have OCD. But I would say.
So what's the stutter thing? Like,
I think there's this.
What's the diagnosis?
Right.
Is it just called stutter?
I think it's just called stutter. But
Gotcha.
I think it's I think they call it. I think they call it like it's an impediment for sure.
Sure. So a
but
stuttering
impediment can extend itself. Like you can be impeded by something. It's so funny that impediment takes over the jurisdiction of the face. Like this is impediment. You know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, so like if you have a nub, you wouldn't be like, this is my impediment, right? You would be like, this is my nub.
I'm being serious. I don't
Yeah.
understand what you're
Look,
saying.
this is what
It's
I'm
an
saying.
obstacle.
Sure. Yes. So I think it's I think people call it a disability. That's what I think.
Yes,
I think that's
understand.
what they call it. But here's the thing: you would call that an like you call that an
That would be a disability.
amputation. Yeah,
If
it
somebody
would
didn't
be.
have a hand.
Of course.
'Cause-
But they would
'cause-
say like my arm's like amputated, right? Or my hands, I'm an amputee, is what they would say. But we don't have like people who stutter. We don't have like a thing. We don't have like a
disability
this.
makes sense to me.
I guess it does. But I've never been crazy about it because there's stigma around.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. That's why, like, autism spectrum disorder, they refer to as a disorder, not necessarily a disability. Some people, depending on their symptoms and their obstacles, it could be considered a disability.
See, I would like to get to disorder.
Yeah, call it
know?
a stuttering disorder.
I would like to just get. I don't know if there's a test.
Get merch.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
that's funny. I have something for you as well. So
Dan Dover.
From the same bag would be so silly.
Let me see. Because you're talking about because I'm always out in the sun. What is this?
Whoa! Go ahead, plug
Shout
it.
out to Sarah V facial moisturizing lotion. When you want broad spectrum and you're not a Rick, don't worry because SPF 30 is for you. Matthew Broderick isn't the only person because he doesn't just stay in his Nathan Lane. My name's Rick Glassman of the Take Your Shoes Off podcast. And we'll be right back with a word from our sponsors. Were we around the 30-minute mark? Does that work? Can we cut to sponsors there? Brilliant.
Yeah, let's have that.
Great.
Bring us back in.
How, am I dry? How? Yeah, I'm okay.
I think it's pretty dry at this point. I think you got the curls.
All right. And we're back.
Because that's what your hat says.
Yeah.
That's silly, man.
Were you saying we're back?
I guess I could say it.
Good.
And we're back.
Now say what you just said to me about because my hat.
Oh, because your hat says it.
That's what she said.
And it is. You don't know how you don't know how she identifies though, so that's
I do. You identify as a she, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
wow.
I asked her.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I would say
We're back.
We
I think
did that.
I think we've been
That was a.
back.
Oh, you're doing the delay thing.
No, I was doing the I'm prepped now.
No, but we already said we're back. Like, and I think and I appreciate your initiative. It's just it's like delayed, and we've been struggling with delays for this whole
Yeah,
episode.
we got it. Well, now it just sounds like you're banging on it.
No,
Oh, was it not working?
I don't think that we're back.
This
yet.
is a new set you
Yeah.
got going on. We got some stuff we're figuring out. Everything just turned off?
No, we're still rolling.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Did you hear Drew fart?
I
And did
think-
you hear when he whispered that his penis his sucks?
My penis sucks other penises, right? Because
listen,
isn't that
man, you
how
gotta
it?
give
You
people
know,
their props.
you got to get in when you can, and no matter what is in. You know?
Yeah, that was actually really.
Moby Dick.
Hmm.
So when so I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I would ever say that it's a disability.
Call it a stuttering disorder. Get the merch.
But that's what. Okay, all right. I'll talk to people about that. But
Okay,
yeah, I'll do that.
I believe you.
I've been told by my wife, I've been told by her that I also am fastidious. Okay, I'm fastidious, and I'm trying to not be. I'm not trying to be yeah.
Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, if you want to.
Fastidious. Very attentive to and concerned about accuracy and detail.
No. Thank God I used that correctly. But that's not the word I was trying to use.
What do you mean?
Lothologica. That's the word that
know.
you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just trying to play in this. But I genuinely, I'm fastidious on certain things, and I can't have like when I shower, I have to brush my teeth, and when I brush my teeth, I have to floss, no matter what. I can't do it. There's certain things like there's just
You floss
certain
first
things.
before you brush.
No.
Is that a stuttering thing?
No, it's not. It's not,
you-
Rick. It's just how I've just. It's.
Can I tell you how flossing works?
I was raised Christian. I have no idea how to deal with.
No,
this.
I understand, but here we are now making our own choices, right?
I guess. I mean, it feels like God was kind of involved for.
Yes, God was involved for 7 days, and now it's up to us.
Okay.
Now, when you have tartar and food in between your teeth,
Yeah.
and you brush them, it's not going to come out, right? That's why you need to floss.
Right. The floss. Yeah.
Right. So if you brush and then floss, now you got out some of it, but it's still there because you didn't brush it out. It would almost be like you drying your hands before you wash them.
I don't think it's at all like that.
May I?
Yeah.
So soap acts as an emulsifying agent. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Do you really?
Sort of.
Would you like me to explain it, or should we move?
Sure.
So dirt doesn't necessarily come off with water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oil and water, for example. Oil and water, they're not connected.
Right.
In order to connect them, a soap would act like an emulsifier. So here's the emulsifier soap. Water sticks to the emulsifier. Soap, oil or dirt sticks to the emulsifier, and then the water washes it away, right? So when you wash your hands, you need to get the soap to connect to the dirt before you wash it away, right? Similarly, you need the stuff between your teeth to come out so it can connect to the toothbrush so you could wash it away.
So you're saying I shouldn't floss or brush my teeth.
No. I'm saying shower, and if you want to shower, clean your teeth too.
Yeah.
Floss first.
Floss first?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to do that. I'll do it now. Fine. I'll do it.
Good.
Do you
What if you start flossing and your stutter just goes away? It's just
stuttering
too
thing
much
the whole
plaque.
time.
Too much plaque. We'll be right plaque.
Oh man, gosh. Okay, so
Rick.
Yeah, Rick, sorry. I always forget. So, have you ever felt plagued by your own OCD? Have you ever felt like first of all, I want to know when it was that you were diagnosed and when it was that you felt like that connected for you and it made sense. Were you ever like, oh, I just feel isolated because of it, or it doesn't? There's things that just don't have. There's question marks that I'm not familiar with what's going on, and so because I feel I don't have a sense of closure or belonging. Is there any of that?
You saying you don't have a sense of closure or belonging? I didn't know what you were connecting that to.
I just mean, like, did you ever feel like you were somewhat outcast? No, outcast.
What was that other word? Laurological or something? No, I understand what you're asking.
Okay. Do you want to answer it? Or
Yeah,
no?
could you give us a freestyle beat?
Yeah.
I'm going to rap to it. Don't worry about it. No, not on the table. I meant, okay. So I was diagnosed with different things when I was a kid.
That was what it was called?
I was just thinking about something funny I did on my podcast. What'd you say? What did you say?
I was thinking about that funny thing you did on your podcast too.
The Take Your Shoes Off podcast?
Yeah.
I don't know when I was told I have OCD and I was also medicated when I was younger, and I don't know if that was for OCD or ADD or ADHD or whatever they thought, whatever it was. But as a kid, it was debilitating. I couldn't do things, or if I did, a lot of times it would take me very, very long. Putting my clothes on was no, that's not right. I had to keep trying. I used to have these tics. I still do. They still come sometimes. I'm able to suppress them a lot, and then I don't have the need as much as I used to. But like, I used to just have these tics. I would do this all the time, and I would do this a lot. I would be looking down a lot. I would be like a lot of things that were obsessive, and then rituals that were not necessarily part of my body, the touching, the doing, the needing to do this or not do this. There's the version of it where things don't feel right, the clothes or like moving things or needing things to be a certain way. Being scared of things not staying new so I couldn't use them, as if being used and or scratched meant it was not okay. Then that was all internal, but then interacting socially while masking those things and or not being accepted for them. I don't know if I ever looked at myself as an outcast. I've been recently talking about on stage how I I grew up, I was always very funny and everyone liked me and I was great. And looking back with the awareness I have now, I realized, oh, I had no friends. Like, and I don't mean that in such a victimized way because like I was never bullied. Once in summer camp I was, but like I wasn't bullied. And people weren't mean to me. Glassman's coming. Everyone, fuck Glassman.
Right. Which is a great last name to bully. I mean, if you're going to bully,
Those who throw stones at glass men say hi, men. If you can have gas, oh, you were opening a bottle. But like, a lot of the OCD behaviors made me, like I said, either mask and or deflect, which was exhausting for me and for other people. And that combined with me not picking up on social cues and me having so many needs, don't touch that, or if you touched it, touch it again, and or whatever they may be. Like I would always do bits to make them softer for people, to the point to where I started relying on bits so much that I was just doing them because that was the language I learned. I didn't want to be doing them. You didn't want to be hearing them. I didn't realize you didn't want to be hearing them. I didn't realize I was getting drained by them. But just, So then like my wiring or my instincts kind of adapted to communicating not for efficiency's sake of expression or not expression of data. Like, here's what I'm feeling. What are you feeling? I start communicating in a way of survival of, I need to do whatever I can do to either make you not see me do the things I'm doing or to be okay with it or distract you from it. I used to have one where I would hop like this, and pardon the sound for that. In the wide, do we see? Can we cut to wide? All right, go back. And sometimes I could hold it. I know some people with a stutter, maybe you could maybe hold it for a little bit, but then it's kind of building up, right?
Yeah, it makes it worse by trying to avoid.
Yeah. Like burying a feeling.
Yeah.
So I would hold it as long as I could, and then I would just need to end the conversation, and I'd be like, here, cut to wide. I would be like, all right, I'll see you. So I could like run off like that. Like I would be holding it in, and I would need to run off. So, all right, man. And I would go. And I remember I told my grandma once, I said, I figured out a way to hop. Without seeming weird. I just could leave. And she said, but why hop at all? And I subconsciously or unconsciously, I'm sure I probably recognize it, but I do remember that was at least one of, if not the first moment, I'm like, why do I have to hop? It was never, why am I doing this? It was, you have to hop. How do I hop in this crazy hopless world?
This is the constant. Everything else is a variable. That's so funny. Now, how have you...
I do realize, me talking about OCD, that probably seemed like a real thing, but I did it once, and it was just making me think of that, like, for audio only, I'm doing something with my coffee, but like that game where it's metal circle and you go around the thing and you can't have it touch.
Yeah, it's in Survivor. Love that.
Oh, I was just trying to avoid the straw hitting that.
You'd have to go back. So how did you end up managing all of that? How is it that has become less and less over the years? And I don't even know if I want to say less, but how is it that you became...
It has.
Okay.
Well, speaking for myself, and I say that intentionally because I don't want to speak for people with OCD or anything that is even, similar to the way I think and am. But for me, as I got older, things just got easier. I regress sometimes when I'm anxious or sad. I regress. And even that, like the dips aren't like where I was as a kid is now probably still below where I get, but close there. Just getting older and things got easier, thank goodness. Maybe also challenging myself either intentionally or just the things I was doing, comedy and basketball and being social. And
you're such a good basketball player, by the way.
Should we cut to a clip?
Yeah.
I'll send you the asset.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was incredible.
Yeah. It's just me like, because I won't get the acid. So we'll do a pickup later, and we'll just me be standing here and just like, you know, like you guys are gonna CGI it.
Or we won't.
Yeah, yeah, I do that sometimes. We do a lot of live action animation on my podcast.
Yeah,
and
I saw.
people will interact with things that are happening, but sometimes it's funny just to have them be, you know, and then not
And
doing
then
it.
there's just no. Yeah, you're such a good basketball player, and so you think you were just saying that as you've gotten older and with you know doing like social activities like something like that, you think that
Well, when
that
I have a
helps?
goal, when the goal is to get dressed, then I could get dressed, and then it might take me a long time, but I could accomplish my goal. When there's goals that cannibalizes, for example, winning the basketball game, you know, then there are compromises you have to make with yourself. Like, all right, I can't leave the court and touch a thing and come back. So you have to force yourself to suppress that feeling, and a lot of times that can make it build up. But also, you know, like what's it called when you're immersing yourself into doing the things you're afraid of? That kind of therapy. You could say it.
Eustress.
Eustress. Oh, I've never heard that term, but I believe it. There might be a more casual term for it or something different, but like when you have to do stuff, it might make it harder. But if you keep doing it, or eustress, you start to stress less, and you start to realize, all right, I could, you know, you whittle away at some of the things you have to do, or at least have to do as often. My OCD got real bad during COVID, and I stopped doing stand-up for a while, and I came back January of 2022.
So you were off for about a year. I mean,
2
we were all
years.
off. We were all off for a
Couple years.
For a couple years.
But also I wasn't doing any, you know, I was just staying in my house doing my podcast.
Yeah.
But the point is not about how long I was off, rather that when I came back, you know, I'm wiping down the microphones, and I'm like wearing the mask until I get the da-da-da-da. I would always have to open my set acknowledging this thing that they're seeing me do.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have to do that. And one day I'm like, just don't, and then wash your hands after and go home and shower and burn everything or whatever you have to do. And I did it, and I got off stage, and I just felt fine. It was that one was, and then I'm like, oh, I'm fine. And if my stasis was at a 3 of my OCD, and then during COVID I was at a 9, like that, it went down to like a 5, just like that. And then doing stand-up more keeps helping.
Did you ever have to acknowledge it in conversation or on stage? Because the reason I'm asking this, Rick, is because for a very, very long time, I very rarely acknowledge my stutter on stage, just because it's not as much there, and if it does happen, I don't care as much. But for a really long time, that became the big piece that I had to try and navigate around, was just trying to, like, it's almost like you talking about, like, with the hop. It's like that, like, how do that has to be something that I find a way to acknowledge in order to put people at ease. When
Right.
really, me projecting that they were feeling that way could have been it could have been inflammatory to the whole situation from the beginning. So was that something that you were doing at one point, either in school or on stage, where it was like you had certain things that you had to? I mean, I guess I even use the term "had" unnecessarily.
I know, it's okay. Shorthand is fine. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, your idea of like, oh, I was probably maybe projecting that other people felt that way. I'm sure both existed. I'm sure sometimes you felt you needed to for the other person when they didn't need that. But also, you know, and I'm going to speak for less for like adult me and more younger me, and more specifically just kids in general. When you're not around somebody who stutters, and then all of a sudden you introduce this new element as somebody who's stuttering, that's funny. That's weird. Like, what's going on here? It doesn't have to be as cruel as, look at this fucking loser.
Right.
But there is a natural curiosity and by definition, something that's unusual, where it's, and then some people like me, I would have been like, what is that? Or asking questions around it, And some people would maybe be like, oh, I don't want to be rude. Some people maybe would just be like making fun. So as a defense mechanism, but also just as a form of efficient communication, it makes sense to acknowledge things. I have found that people, when they're mad at somebody or they don't like somebody or they're hurt by somebody or anything that would be a relatively negative emotion, oftentimes it's not because of the thing that happened. By negative, it could also mean judgment, laughing at you or whatever the thing is that maybe does make you feel good. It's not because of your stutter. Or it's not because of, whatever behavior you may have put out there that makes your significant other feel, triggered. Like whatever the thing is, it's oftentimes that the expectation didn't meet what was expected. And with that, and this is where I think interpersonally things get so muddied, because while I'm not responsible for your expectations, which should be minimal, if any,
Right.
To not acknowledge that they exist is just, putting, making the gravity heavier than it needs to be.
Putting too much responsibility on the other party.
Not allowing the interaction to breathe as freely as it could, because I don't want to have to make it easier, because your expectations aren't my responsibility. And until we are in a fully enlightened world, we all will have them, and usually they're unconscious, right? So if people understand you have a stutter, and then it makes it easier for them to feel safe to ask questions or to just get by it, then why not say, hey, just want to let you know I have a stutter. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to ignore it.
Yeah.
It would just make it easier.
Of course.
So I learned that, but later in life.
Do you know when?
Yeah, I got an autism diagnosis 6 years ago. And I started to learn a lot of tools, some on my own, some that I've read, some from conversation, but most of which came from the understanding that I lacked awareness. Now, everyone lacks awareness. It's not an autism thing, but the best way I could and have explained it is like, what I think is right, some people may think I'm right, you're wrong. But what I was missing was that there was even a possibility of somebody thinking something otherwise. Like, whatever I'm thinking, you're thinking. It's hard to explain. But whatever I'm thinking, I know you're thinking. Unless you tell me otherwise, and then I'll have so many questions. But most people won't tell me otherwise. Most people don't know how they feel, let alone will bring it up, especially bring it up in conflict, right? So when I realized that the way I see things, as fair as it may be, is a way, I started to realize, there's an example that I give often, and I'll say that a lot because I get insecure about repeating stuff. But like, after I found out and became more aware of myself and how people receive me, I was on a date with a girl, and we were doing bits in the car and bits in the parking lot. I'll send a video.
Yeah.
And when we got into the place, I was still doing bits, and she said, "Shh, you're so loud." And I remember thinking, thank you for telling me. I thought, good for me, like how that's a mature thing. And also, I mean that too, because like, when someone says shh, you could feel that they're being rude to you.
Yeah, it's very hard to respond. No one's like, oh, he's taking that shush well.
Yeah, well, I take a shush well.
Yeah.
Even if I disagree that it was necessary, I started to recognize that you think it's necessary. Can't say that that's not true. I could then choose to not shush, but I don't. That's not about my worth. And I started to value information so much because I knew that I was missing it, and like I want to know. Am I being too much right now?
Not at all.
I'm doing acting.
Oh, sorry.
But like checking in with that kind of stuff. I might be, but like, is this okay? Like, am I being annoying? Am I being too loud? Am I like? I want to ask these things so I could at least have the choice to calibrate differently. So when people offer it freely, I'm grateful for it. And it's just made it easier to understand how other people feel, because ironically, neurotypical people, from my, I won't call it research, but meeting them and talking to people, because so many interactions are more intuitive to them, of just like, how you doing, man? You good? I'm good. Yeah, good to see you. It tells you, yeah. All right, man, yeah, and it's like, yeah, all right, yeah. And it's like, what the fuck just happened? It's just easy for people. So they don't need to think about, what did I, and what were we, everybody does to an extent, but like, I just didn't know how exhausting I was. In comparison, I now know how exhausting I am, and I can be, but it's still a fraction of what it was.
And that's because of your diagnosis that brought a lot of light to that.
Nobody told me. Nobody told me. I have this, I don't know if I'll really send the asset or if you cut to it. It's unnecessary. But if we were going to cut to a basketball clip, it's from this video I made called I Am Phenomenal, which is on YouTube. And it was about me. I'm the best and everyone loves me. And then in real life, I got kicked out of a basketball game and I found out people don't even want to play when I'm there. And who's wrong? Am I wrong for having a different idea of what we were playing for? To me, we were playing to win, so I don't have to sit and wait. They were playing to have a good time and exercise, and they'd like to wait. Neither one of us are wrong there, but I didn't know that I was getting in the way of their fun. I didn't know that my aggression and the way I played was getting in the way of their fun. Nobody told me. They told the guy who runs the game who told me. People don't tell you how they feel. And what I was getting at about the neurotypical people is, because things are so, because intuitively they interact with other people in a similar way, they don't need to maybe check in with how they feel as much, because what's the point? Like, whatever, I'm fine. I said I'm good. I went and then whatever. I went home and everything was fine. So not only do people not know how they feel, they're also then not developing the tools to communicate it. And I think that extends to something bigger that is like something I think about all the time now, is the importance of boundaries, and how if you don't know how you feel, you don't know how to make yourself feel safe, you don't know how to communicate to other people how it makes you feel safe, other people then don't make you feel safe, you then resent those people and don't take on the responsibility of, like we said, expectations.
How did you navigate that?
I know.
How did you navigate that process? Right.
I know I always knew what made me feel safe. Hiding, not wearing certain clothes, not being around certain noises, certain smells. I knew that. I didn't know how to communicate to other people, but I knew what I needed. So the big thing that I have since learned is not so much what I need, but how to communicate to that other people, and also to find out how I could better help other people communicate that to me.
You feel fulfilled by helping other people do that for you, or helping other people just in general?
That's a leading question. I don't want to make it seem as selfless as that.
Okay.
I think it's not that selfless as I want to make you, and maybe I'm putting my intentions down a little. I just don't want to be lying. Like,
no, that's okay.
You give somebody in need food, money, service, whatever. It's an old philosophical question of, are you doing it for them, or are you doing it because it makes you feel good? So I guess what I'm saying is acknowledging both those things, because it makes it just easier. But yeah, to say to people, even before the cameras went on, and maybe you thought it was all jokes, but like, I could be talking too much. I could be too much. Like, I want to go like this. And you're like, don't even worry about it. Like, I'm not necessarily doing the thing that I think you may want, but I'm trying to give you, hey, tell me if you need me to do whatever. Are you okay with this stuff? Checking in.
And that's a tool that you navigated on your own?
That's a tool that I learned when I realized, like, all these people had these problems with me, and they didn't tell me. And if they told me, I could only imagine I would have adapted in some way to it. on one hand, I don't blame myself for them not telling me, but in the same way we talked about expectations, on the other hand, if I could have gotten that information by just asking or making them feel safe to tell me, I did a TV show last year. I'm doing a TV show now. And in television, and I don't mean to be condescending if you already know this, but for the audience, in television, a lot of times, especially in episodic television, you have different directors all the time. So each week you're working with a stranger, and each week they're working with new strangers. And I make a point to tell the directors, not about an autism diagnosis necessarily, but like, I'll say like I need to hear things very directly. I don't pick up on nuance that well. I also know that speaking to a lot of people in this business, they feel that actors have egos and need to be spoken to a certain way. And though I believe that exists, the most efficient way we could talk is for you to just say, less of this, more of this, don't do this, do this. The idea of like, oh, that's a good idea. Why don't we try that? And then we'll go do the other thing. Like, I don't need that.
Just shoot me direct.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something about something you just said a second ago, which is, did you ever feel angry about the people who didn't tell you those things about yourself? You don't strike, yeah. I mean, you don't strike me as an angry individual, but
yeah, I have. I mean, just like as a part of the acceptance process, like when I yeah, like sometimes I'll be like, fuck them. You're upset that blah blah blah, but you said nothing about it. But that is, I do also know that's a defensive thing, and that's not where I land.
Yeah.
I just know that we're all just flawed and scared, and I'm just starting to feel a little emotional at
That's
the moment.
okay. You find yourself feeling more accepting or less accepting of people who are different than you?
Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I've always been accepting of people who are different. No, that's not true. Not completely true, because sometimes when I have a better acceptance as of recently for other people's flaws. Now I use that term again intentionally. For example, stuttering, whether it's a disorder or a handicap or whatever we land on, isn't a flaw. It just is a character trait, right? It's a part of you. A disability to me, by this definition, I don't mean as a flaw. What a flaw I mean is people's actions and based off of their own traumas and fears, and sometimes people will lie. Sometimes people will say something hurtful and or not consider or even close to prioritize other people's feelings. And like, I am more accepting of understanding, not excusing, but understanding, oh, this person was scared. This person was hurt. This person didn't mean, I've always taken things quite literally, and to understand, oh, this is not what this person means. And to give the benefit of the doubt, at least at first, until the trigger goes away to the person. And, hey, when you said this thing, I'm a little confused. Did you mean this or this? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find yourself, people who...
No, I'm okay. Thank you. You offered me toilet paper. I didn't even...
Did you need to wipe?
I didn't even fart, let alone... No.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have any tissues, though? I was going through a breakup years ago, and I was in my therapist's office, and she had toilet paper. She was out of tissues, but she still kept the tissue box. Not the fun, reusable, it's a home and you pull in the tissue through the chimney, but just like a Kleenex cardboard throw it away box. But inside was toilet paper, and I'm just talking. And, this, and the girl that I go pulling out like it's a magician with a thing. And I go, you don't even have tissues. You don't have tissues? I didn't mean to be judgmental. I was just like, what the fuck is this? And she goes, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I'm even bothering my therapist. I just remember. So whenever when somebody gives me toilet paper for crying, which happens, I don't know, twice a week, it always makes me think of like, oh, be gentle.
When do you go to therapy? Do you go to therapy still?
Oh, buddy,
Every
love
day?
it.
Every day.
I'm a therapy brat. Yeah.
You go twice a week?
I am this week.
Wow.
I am this week. Yeah.
You find that it's beneficial. I go to speech therapy. I like, and that helps me. I don't like to talk about things about me. I like to be told what they tell you what to say. So that's comforting for me.
I did it for a while, speech therapy,
Did you?
when I was younger.
Yeah. What'd you struggle with?
Mostly it was a speech saying my R's, and I had to learn how to say my R's. You do an L where the tongue is to the tip of the teeth, and then you roll the tongue back to the top roof of your mouth, and it goes from L to R.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that's the thing, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the Chinese who sometimes, like when people do a Chinese accent, they won't say, like they don't say their R's and they say L's, right? Yeah, it's one of the two. It's either they don't say R's, they say L's, or the other way around. And it's a caricature thing, but like it also is like when people, I don't know if it's specifically Chinese, but like Asian dialect, I don't know. Like I know they don't do much dairy in their diet, so maybe they don't have many R's in their vocabulary. I don't know, but that's like a thing. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's because L's and R's are connected.
See, it's so funny. It's like I almost skipped the step of the L going against my teeth and then falling back. It's like it starts up there. R.
Say girl.
Girl.
Girl. Notice that the tongue will be from the roof of the mouth to the front of the teeth.
Girl. Oh yeah,
Girl.
it goes forward.
Yeah.
Girl.
Because
Yeah.
the R is back to the
Oh,
roof,
I see,
and
I see.
the L is to the front of the teeth.
Oh, nice. And then there's both letters in there too. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a good example, Rick.
I also always got confused with why elemento always had to be so close together.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah. It's almost like when people are studying the alphabet, it almost feels like they're saying something they shouldn't be saying. So they're trying to just get elemental.
No.
Yeah.
No. So
I'd like to get some Tootsie Pops, some batteries, a pack of condoms, elemental, and a pee, and that's funny. Maybe that'll be a good bit that I could talk about on stage, where people will be like, "I want to buy tickets to his show."
When you were younger, did you always know that you wanted to end up in comedy or do stand up? And if, for that matter, do you find yourself gravitating towards acting or stand up? Is there one that you like more?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to act. In high school, I started playing basketball. Thank goodness, started getting friends. And then I saw people then that's when I discovered, people doing plays and stuff, but I couldn't get into that. I'm graduating in a couple of years. I don't know what this stagecrafter stuff is, and I feel like I'm starting too late. I already started basketball late, like I'm committing to this thing. But I am curious about it. So then I became a theater minor in college and loved it and loved acting. I was always playful and silly, and I'll diagnose myself as funny when I was a kid, or at least felt funny, made people laugh. So like comedy was definitely a thing, but not necessarily stand up. I knew I just wanted to act. I knew I wanted to make stuff. I was writing stuff and making videos, and I decided to try stand up at the Improv in Cleveland. And then I really liked it. So I'm like, I'll keep doing this as I'm trying to act.
You liked doing stand up at the Improv in Cleveland?
When was, the Improv has since moved to a new location now. I don't know if that's not a thing people like anymore, but yeah, I did. I really liked it.
One of my worst sets that I've ever had was at the Cleveland Improv, I think.
Do you have a clip?
Yeah, we'll cut to it right now.
If this were on my podcast, I would have you film you bombing, and then just for like 8 seconds, and we'd cut it in. How's that, everyone? And then just
And then cut out.
yeah. Yeah, you asked me why some of my obsessive behaviors and compulsions got better as I got older. Yours, you talk about on stage. Yours have. What is that because of? Your stutter, I mean.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with. I think it just has a lot to do with figuring out. recognizing that there's a vicious cycle with stuttering.
Dane Cook.
Yes. Yeah.
Vicious circle.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I
that's okay.
misunderstood.
No, that's all right. Common misconception, but Dane Cook helped a lot with my healing. But mostly it was because I was projecting, just that projection we were talking about in those social situations where you're like, it's that, it's that I put so much, it's like so many conversations I'm having with people where I'm watching me have the conversation.
You not being present probably makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's just, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, that's what you're saying that is more commonplace than just with stutter is it's literally self-acceptance.
Yeah. And that's where I've gotten closer to, I would say. And that's why I'm so curious about your journey, how much I'm interested in it just because I'm interested in it, but I'm also interested in, where I could see myself in relating to that as well, because, it's not so much just having the awareness of what's going on, but it's how you navigated it, how you came to that that reprieve for yourself. And I didn't. I still sometimes struggle with it, and that's why I was so fascinated by what you said about.
You still struggle with what? Explain the reprieve thing.
I'm just saying, like, you're able to finally catch a break for yourself through your own tools that you were talking about, through your own.
Isn't that what you're doing?
process.
I mean, it's literally part of your brand now.
Yeah, I mean it is, but it's also something that for a long time I've always felt that people cared more about the way that I'm saying things, not the things that I'm saying. And
That's probably true. At first, like
yeah.
when you listen to a song, you're going to listen to the beat and the melody more so than the poetry.
Sure.
But that's just because that's louder. It's more. It's what's standing out. So that is true.
Sure, it's true, but it's not. It's not what. It's good, but it's not as fulfilling as I had hoped.
I'm sorry. What's not as fulfilling?
If someone's like, it's like if someone says I enjoy. It's like if someone said I enjoy your fashion. I enjoy your fashion. I enjoy every single thing you wear. It's like if the first thing I said to you when we were on the podcast, I was like, hey Rick, I love everything that you wear, and every single time I saw you thereafter, was like, I love all the things you wear. Nice shirt, nice this, nice that. You would start to think that it was everything that you wore and had nothing to do with you or your comedy, which are both things that I appreciate.
Yeah. So I know a lot of women, believe it or not. And I know a lot of women, especially in this business, are valued for the way they look, to the point to where like it's their livelihood. Like looking a certain way could help them make more money. And models, actresses, and this goes outside of the public eye business, but it's more magnified there because there's more people making those judgments and telling you what your value is. So like I get that, and like how difficult it must be just to be a woman in general, where that is such a big part of your value from society, to where you start to think like, if I'm not pretty, then. And it does take a lot of work and acceptance and understanding of self to not necessarily not value that part of you, because let's be real, it's just superficiality exists, and we want to look a certain way. We want people to be attracted to us, but like that's part of like this basketball thing where I used to think falsely that my value is being a good basketball player. Now, whether or not I was as great as I thought I was, which I probably was, but like, that's not why people came to play the game. They came to play the game to have fun, to exercise, to get away from their family, to connect with other people. So I didn't realize, like, I thought I need to show people how great I am. Whether or not I was, that was my, like, I'm going in and this is this narrative that I have. I'm great at this. I am phenomenal. But when you realize, no, if also I can make people feel at ease and make people feel like they have their turn, that's a value that I didn't realize I could offer. So not to say that looking a certain way or this dressing a certain way, whatever, doesn't exist, but it can't just be that. And the reason I say that is because, the stutter doesn't matter. No, people don't care. Like, you're lying about human nature, and people do. But that's where that expectation, it doesn't have to be more than just, if I were to play a song for you that you never heard and say, listen to this, you might like dance to it or whatever. But if I say, hey, listen to the song, but also listen to the words, I just want you to hear what they're saying. That's all it takes. And then you're going to listen to it. So I do think it's necessary for us to guide people's expectations of us. I think it's necessary to allow people the opportunity to do the same for me. And I am under the assumption that people don't default to that. Hey, want to let you know I'm a little eccentric, and or, I'm going to need to have my water a certain way, or I'm going to check for my hat or whatever. I don't want it to get in your way. Let me know if anything happens. Is there anything, like, what about you? Is there any, like, tell me if there's anything you need me to know. Because if I don't ask you that, you might not think to tell me.
When you're on stage and you're doing sets, when you're doing your show and the comics in the back are laughing, or even if no one's laughing, I'm sure you've had sets. We've all had sets where it's just no one is just understanding what's going on. Sure. I've had so many that way.
Cut back to the Cleveland Improv.
There it is, and we're back. How do you handle that mentally in that moment?
This is going to sound very corny, but there's two versions of being able to be on stage. There's being completely present, or relatively, and then there's not. When it's not, it's a completely different thing than when it is. And the best I could do in this craft is being able to be present. And then, what are my jokes? That's the writing and the comedian part of it. But the human part of being a comedian is I don't think a comedian, but speaking specifically, that is that idea of being present. And when I'm able to be present, and I do think that's my superpower. Whether or not people think I'm funny or like my comedy, which I think I am, and people do, but put that aside. My superpower, is being present. And when I'm that, I know that there's nothing more I could be doing. Not now, not during this set. Maybe, I could rewrite this, or I shouldn't talk about this, or I should mention this first. But I didn't mention it first. I'm already doing this, and I haven't written that in this moment. There's nothing I could do differently.
Yeah.
The only thing I could do is to be present. And there is this feeling of superpower. Because if I say something that people don't like, I'm there with them. Whatever. I don't feel judged, even if I know I'm being judged. I don't feel bad at what I'm doing, even if they're not laughing. I think that has both offered me a lot of value and strength in what I do, and it also has been an obstacle and a barrier to entry into being more consistent, and has taken me a lot longer to get good at this than a lot of our friends and peers. But I'm happy the way it's gone because I figured it out. And, when I'm on stage, I'm not as selfless as some other people. I've heard people talk about, if I could just make people laugh and distract them, and which I like that idea, and I think that's great. But admittingly, I also go on stage because I feel good at what I do, and that makes me feel good.
I similarly, if I could interject, I that's the only time where I feel like I'm being listened to. So to me, that's what speaks at that deeper level for me. I go back to years ago where people would interrupt, or they would talk over me, or they would ask me questions and then finish the conversation themselves. So I just feel so empty. I feel like I'm not even there. I'm not even a role in the scene that you asked me to be a part of. So stand up to me, it's the ultimate level of. It's the ultimate expression, or maybe hopefully the receiving end of that expression, which is feeling understood. That's my love language.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. And you control it. I get to be understood now, or not. But
at least it was on my terms.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying. I always did weird stuff and experimental stuff, and people would think Rick loves fucking with people, or Rick likes making people feel uncomfortable. And my intention was always to be liked and for them to laugh. But But if they didn't, they didn't. But I'm not trying to fuck with anybody. I mean, it's all connection. It's all wanting to connect, wanting to be accepted, wanting to be heard, wanting to be understood. And then once you satisfy that, you try and be really good at it, and you try and make a living from it, and you try to feel that value from this craft, this job, this career. But at the root of it is all just like being understood.
What's the thing you think the moment before you go on stage?
It's always different. Always different. I get nervous so much. Sometimes I feel like I got to get up there. I'm so funny. I say sometimes. That's not an often thing. Not that I often feel that I'm not necessarily, but there are some times when I'm, if we've been playing around. I did a set with you at the Improv in March where I needed to go. I was going out of town the next morning, and I wanted to go up earlier, and they put me up a couple later, and then you were going, and I wanted to get out of there, and you let me go in front of you. Incidentally, my food came late, and I ended up staying, so thank you for that. But even before, like, you said, go up, it's fine. You're gonna say, I'm gonna say anyway. You said about yourself, and like, I was there with my buddy John, and we were just all goofing around. I just felt like playing. So like, I want to go fucking play on stage, because of the energy that was off. And then there's times where I'm just like, what am I doing? But what I do when I'm feeling insecure, what I'm thinking, what I'm telling myself is, you've done this 10,000 times. I don't know. This has happened 8,400 of them. Like, this is what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to feel this way. You're allowed to feel this way. Just don't pretend like you're not. Don't be in the back of your head that you're feeling this way. Just feel this way. Be this thing. That's the whole being present thing. Like, be the uncomfortable, nervous guy that you are, and go up on stage and have that energy. And that's all you
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever seen the movie Monsters, Inc.?
Yes, I don't remember it.
Okay. Well, in the movie, basically...
Matthew Broderick's in that?
Yeah. And Nathan Lane. Both of them. It's the revival tour, man. God, it's crazy what Pixar's ever get their hands on.
Well, that was pre-COVID.
Yeah. It's an animated. It's an animated, and in the movie, basically every monster scares kid. They go through these doors, and then they scare children, and then they try to collect the screams from those children to power their city.
Right.
That's the concept.
That's fun.
It's actually very scary to say out. Like, that's a terrible thing to say.
Well, it also lets people see, oh, monsters aren't there to hurt you. That's just how they live.
Sure, I guess that's a good way.
I think that's actually nice.
Yeah, that is.
They're just
nice.
trying to collect your screams.
God, and that's back to sounding worse again. But either way, what I love about that movie and how I apply it to stand up is every single monster goes into the bedroom with their own way of scaring. Like, they have they use their strengths. So sometimes it'll be like a really slender with many arms monster, and then there's like a big one that's like that growls a lot. There's one with big teeth. There's one that's like a little spider thing. And I think like that was what I always loved about that movie, and that's what I love about stand-up, because I never wanted to do stand-up. I moved out here to do acting, and then when my injury happened, I got...
What's your injury? I don't know about it.
Oh, really?
Really?
Oh, yeah, I had a softball injury. When I was 20, I got hit in the throat with a softball, and I fell and I hit my head on the ground. And from that, I had a traumatic brain injury. I lost the functionality of my motor skills, my speech, and that's why I stutter today.
Boring. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
I know, right? Yeah.
So the stutter wasn't before then?
No, I didn't grow up with it. So for, and when I moved out here to Los Angeles,
it wasn't about the throat injury. It was the throat knocked you back.
Yeah, I
So
fell
the
and I hit
throat
my
thing
head.
has since... there are nothing necessarily from it.
No.
You hit your head.
Yeah, I thought it was. Well, I was told it was. But the actual diagnosis was vocal contusion with a major concussion.
So coincidentally, the thing that happened with your head also affected your voice.
Yeah, I mean, it just became it was mostly the traumatic brain injury.
Right.
By far anything that happened that day. That was the thing that affected everything in my body and in my brain. And I think once your brain becomes aware, or rather not aware of something that you can't use anymore, that's the way it thinks. That's the way it operates.
Once your brain becomes
once it becomes aware that that's not something that works anymore, or it believes that.
right.
And when we talk about the growth for me over the years with my stutter, it's been not trying, but truly believing that you can come back from something, and that just because there's been predetermined or pre-existing circumstances, that doesn't have to. That's not something you have to abide by all the time. So anyway, I moved out here to do acting, and then when I had my injury, I had representation at the time. They didn't want to represent me anymore. They didn't word it like that, but they said, "Come back."
You basically got canceled.
Yeah. Yes, I was the original. But I got canceled for not any sexual things. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, it's still like, banging, using
right?
your head.
Yeah, man. Just did. Yeah.
They dropped you because you had a stutter, but they said, what did they say? They said,
"Come back when you get better."
What was the agency?
I'll tell you off air, but
Off air, I don't know them.
I'll tell you off air. I don't know, because I was angry about it for a while, but I don't hold the contempt for it, because it led to a good thing, which is this podcast with Rick Glassman.
If you ever win an award in a place where you're giving a public speech to, you could do like what you did in Pretty Woman and say to the agency, "You guys work on commission?"
Yeah.
Yeah, big mistake.
Big mistake.
Or as Homer would say, steak.
Walking in and fucking that up would be amazing. Steak. Huge.
Yeah. So whatever the thing from Pretty Woman, I just, you guys dropped me. No. The music. Hold on a second. You dropped me because I dropped. And let me tell you something. I might not be gay, but I might be gay. I might be gay. And people are like, comedian loses his fucking mind again.
And is still gay. Yeah, so anyway, that's what I appreciated about stand-up, was that it was like...
Way to land it.
Yeah. Is that everybody's gay?
No, I'm saying, but what I'm saying is, that's my appreciation for stand-up. Yeah, everyone's their own monster trying to use their strengths to collect screams.
Yes, and I mean this seriously, is that is your superpower, and I'm glad that you, by your own admission, have just said that, because that led me to say that is something I also noticed and believe to be true about you, is your superpower is how present you are, and that to me, every single set, it's never the same, and it's always just your essence, which I think is great, and I think it's that you are just ultra present.
Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That to just
I just like...
I'm about here, by the way.
Let me see.
Is that enough? Did I go too far?
Could you give me a string?
A string? I don't know. I could get a string.
This is fine. Can we see? Yeah, one way. Isn't that cool?
That's crazy.
Also, I didn't consider the fact that I didn't touch that, but I did get really close. I did really close to it, and sorry if you don't want to drink that now.
No.
I definitely didn't touch the mouthpiece, but I was around it.
That's still really good. Worth it, though, I would say.
Yeah. Isn't that a cool trick?
Yeah, it is. It'll do great in the podcast.
Yeah. Maybe you could clip that.
Just the audio. Is stand-up the end game for you? Is stand-up the end game for you? Because I know you love acting. I know you like directing too, right?
Yeah. Are you? I don't know if you're making a Russo brothers reference.
Not at all.
So what are we talking about directing Endgame about?
No. Sorry, no.
Are you not talking about the Avengers?
I wasn't, but
What do you? Could you rephrase?
sure. I said, so what is the end game for you? And that I understand how we got into this Marvel verse. I understand how we got here. But if we could play with time, let's just go back. So what is the end goal for you, career-wise?
I'll answer a question that you didn't ask, but I think we'll give enough to it. Like, what else I want to be doing is, I want to be writing, directing.
This does taste like your hands.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Writing, directing.
Writing, directing.
Want a family.
What?
Want to have a family too.
That's the craziest thing I've ever. I don't.
I want to get married. I want to have kids.
That's not what I said. We're talking about.
Yeah, but you write, direct, you act, you do podcasts, you do comedy, whatever. You make money to eventually be able to afford a house at some point, so you could have get a dog and have a yard and
And then eventually a family.
Yeah.
Is that so? That's really what you want. You want wife, maybe marriage, maybe not.
Mhm.
Okay, wife, or husband, either one. And then kids. You know how many kids you want? Have you thought about this?
Yeah, it's none of your business.
Okay.
But I want to have kids. I want to have I want a family.
Is this a recent development?
As I'm getting old, I'm 22 now, and as I get a little older, I think about it more and more. But like, I do often think about like how grateful I am that I have a show, or I might not. We find out in a couple weeks if it gets to season 2. So put on Hulu, watch it. Give me some fucking money, because if I don't get another season, then you have to find another job, and that's very hard. And if I do, it's like awesome. And outside of the fun, working with the people who I genuinely love working with, and being able to tell stories and play and have fun, etc. But like, why?
Mm.
And like, I do think about it a lot. Like, I want to make money and use that money to. I really want to get a house, and I do. I want a family. I want to like. I first moved here, and like, you have this dream of like being able to do the things that we're doing. Like, could I, first is, could I make any money doing it? And then then you could like, then the big one is, could I only do this? Could I pay my bills and, be happy, satisfied with the amount of money I'm making just doing this? And then that's like almost impossible. And then that is nowhere near getting a house, but then you do it, and then, and I'm saying this from like really like a point of gratitude. Like, I have been working recently, and I think what I do is good, and I have enough value to where I believe maybe I could continue. Maybe, really. I mean, that's where I was meant that luck thing is real.
Yeah.
But it's no longer about, do I get this? Do I get to do this? Do I get to meet somebody that could help with this? It's like that's just my job now. And I mean it in like the coolest way.
Yeah.
This is what I do. This is what we do.
Yeah.
So great. So now that the novelty of like, I got to work with this person or do this thing, which is always fun. And whenever especially studio stuff, like whenever I go in a studio, it's always so cool.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll ever go away. But like, all right, cool. So now I'm doing this. So why?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like you found the other piece, or you found.
It takes us so long to be able to make a living, to do this, even know like, am I making a huge mistake? I talked with my buddy John DeWalt about this a bit. We used to talk about it a lot, where like, to do this, pardon me, I need a sip of this. To do this thing that we do is such a gamble, and we're not just gambling like, a year. It's, all right, I'm going to try this thing, and if it doesn't work out, I'm going to have to start over at 30 or at 35 or at 40, 45 or whenever. Like, you didn't just gamble, money or getting the wrong degree. Like, that's your life.
Yeah.
And you commit to it. And with that isn't just like, now you come out and you have to do something different, and you have to start at the bottom at a place where you're already, it happens. It is what it is. But like, so there's just so much emotional focus on this, and so much weight and responsibility we put on ourselves to make this thing work, not just because it's our dream, because we're doing the thing that, we saw people who inspired us do. Like, how am I going to pay my bills? Am I making a huge mistake? Am I good enough? being told what my value is, and like that's such a harsh place to be. And then when that could settle down for a little bit, then and you're up for air, you're like, oh right, I'm just a human like anyone else
Yeah.
who has a job, like the fortunate people that have one. What's the point of this?
Yeah.
That's what I love about podcasting. Like it's both a job, but also this is the longest conversation we've ever had.
True.
We get to do this. Like, what's the point of this? I get to connect. We get to do this. And yes, I want to make money, but like, anyway. So I want to write. I want to direct. I love acting. I love comedy. I love it all. I love playing. I love collaborating.
Did you ever feel a time where you didn't like any of that stuff? Never. You never had a thing. You never had a time where you're like, gosh, I'm burnt.
I don't know if those two things are separate. I mean, I've been
Sure.
felt burnt. I felt overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed constantly.
Okay.
But I always.
Because sometimes one can be a product of the other, and oftentimes it is.
Yeah.
You know, that's I guess why I meant that, and so those can be mutually exclusive. My bad.
Have you felt like this is not what you want?
In 2019, I toured way too much, and well, I toured to where I overexerted myself,
Yeah.
and I was
Was that after AGT and you had a lot of opportunity and you were seizing it?
pretty much. I mean, 2015 is when I did AGT,
Okay.
and then I toured from that 2016, 2017, and that was kind of like my first introduction to on a bigger scale, and afterwards, I mean, that show doesn't teach you really. That show gives you an introduction to a career, but it doesn't teach you how to sustain it or anything. So I started to kind of do content on
There
my
should be
own.
AGT college after.
Yeah.
Anybody who makes it to the live rounds, they give you, like in school, like if they could teach you how to be a mother, a father, and do taxes, like
Yeah.
AGT should teach you how to tour. I'm sorry. Keep
No, that's
going.
okay.
Edit that out. My interruption. Go on.
That's okay. So a lot of people think that I built my audience from that show. I mostly built like the audience after the fact. Like
Your YouTube
yeah.
get big after AGT because they were exposed to you, and then you used that to make content. And
Yeah. I mean, but I had to make a whole separate sort of show. Like, I did all kinds of different videos for years. So, I toured a lot I mean, I still tour, but I toured mostly, between years 2015 to 2019, 2020. And, I was at this place where I was unwilling to say no to anything. I was just, I don't know if you've ever been there, but I just where you're just saying yes just because you're just saying yes because maybe this could be something, and they're not
FOMO.
actually things. Yeah, it's that, and it's just you're not actually asking yourself if it's something that you want. You're just doing it for the purposes of doing it, and I like that you're connecting this why you're doing this right now, because that is such a thing. Like you do spend so long just being like, all right, we're doing this, and then you wonder at times why. And
Yeah.
2020 for me, and I want to ask how it was for you, but 2020 for me was a blessing, just because I was going to probably capsize. I was going to collapse into myself, either health-wise or mentally, or I was just
Same
doing
thing.
too much. So same thing for you.
No, I'm saying I just like mentally or health, like same mental health. I just meant like
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Like, but physically, I felt physically in pain. I mean, and my anxiety was at an all-time high. It was just, things just weren't going well at the end of 2019. And then I was just ramping up in 2020 to go do Just for Laughs Australia. So I was going to go do like a bunch of like shows in Australia for the first time. And then the pandemic happened, and I was just so grateful for it, because I never, ever had the time to be a person. I still sometimes struggle with just being like a person. Like, you talking about basketball, you talking about these other things, like if there's other things that you have involvement with, that kind of gives you a full actualization of, a human being. And I still sometimes struggle with feeling like, I'm not a real person. Like, I have my things. I guess I like tea. I like soccer and football. But, in doing this podcast, this is the environment that I can like socialize with people. I'm so comfortable socializing this way. When I'm on the scene, it is exactly what you're talking about. Where it's like hey, yeah, oh man, all right, yeah. I don't even hear words. I just hear energy.
I do talk about that on bit. I do conversations without even words of like, this is so much of what people do and converse with is with variables. Like, I mean that things that could be replaced and it's the same thing. Like, it's just cadence. People just speak through cadence and they're not connecting and
Not at all.
and they're not present, which also makes it interesting. Like, when you're present, the other person isn't. It's exhausting. It's why it's one of the, I guess, few at least reasons why I do bits. Because if I'm here and you're not, your thing is, yeah, you good? And then like I'm like, I can't do this with you.
Yeah. No
So
way.
I'm either gonna leave or just like do so many bits. And I think that's kind of my instinct of why, like, this is such a, relatively speaking, like, serious podcast, but the first 25 minutes, and I'm making that number up, was like Bit City, because that's just the easiest.
Sure.
That's just the easiest, because it doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter where the other person is. But what you were saying of like knowing why you're doing stuff in 2020 let you settle back and realize, why was I doing all that? I think that's such an important thing to ask all the time. I remember I learned from my buddy David Sullivan. He's a great actor, and he's also happens to be an acting coach who helps me. It's like, why are we doing this? Like, in a scene. And it's like such a simple question that you don't intuitively think about. You know, you think about, how do I make this funny, or how do I learn my lines so I could try and be present with this person and just respond casually. Like, my job is to be casual or funny as opposed to move a story along, you know, and have intention. And so this idea of why isn't just about like, for our job, why am I doing this? It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I coming to do this podcast? It's not always so well thought out like that, but I do that. Why am I doing it? I want to do this podcast with him. Yeah, I'll do it. As opposed to saying yes because I want to do more podcasts, or, you know.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You know, I have a friend, and I'm going to say a friend because I don't know what we are at the moment. But she was talking to me about her sister, and she asks a lot of questions, my friend, and she was asking her sister, like, why? And her sister got, at least from her point of view, got upset. I think it seems like maybe she felt judged. Why do you keep asking me why? You know? But I know her, and I know she wanted to know why. It's actually a beautiful thing, trying to better understand. But when you ask somebody why, a lot of times there's an instinct to get defensive. Why do you care? You know? So I don't think it's unusual that if we ask ourselves that, we could, you know, blow it off as well. But like, another thing I've said before, and I get insecure, I have to say that I'm repeating it. I feel like answers are relatively easy, but questions are hard. Like, if I know what to ask, I could ask. But like, what is the question? And the why is you could always ask why. Also, I want to acknowledge I'm talking so much. I didn't eat much.
Thing.
Had coffee. I'm talking about stuff I don't always talk about, and thank you for your patience with me.
This is exactly what it's for. Because here's the thing. I think you're someone who's so good at both. You're so good at being sincere because you have depth. You're someone who you think about those things. I think you're thought provoking for yourself, not even just for other people. You know what I mean? Like, you're thought provoking for the purposes of wanting to know things about yourself. And so, using your own, like, you know, we're talking about consciousness. Like, that's another thing that, like, you are using consciousness to address that for yourself as well. Otherwise, you just fall into the monotony of just being like everybody else. And so the reason I'm saying this is because I think it's
the monotony of just being everybody else.
You fall into, like, not a lot of people are. So many people are comfortable being complacent with themselves and not asking those questions.
Right.
That's what I mean. I mean, it takes a certain level of awareness, and whether that extends itself to consciousness, who cares? But it takes a certain level of awareness to feel that there's more depth to someone than
Yeah, the lyrics, not just the melody.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think you're so good at both. And so it's easy for someone who they can not a lot of people can match the frequency that we're having right now, or the one that you have right now, especially with comics. I think our frequency is, or I'm not going to say our, because I don't
I mean, you literally have frequency waves on your walls.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. And they are, and interestingly enough, they are a little bit deeper. They're not. It's not like this. I think most comics are like this, and
I don't know. I don't know if I could concede that. I have never thought about that. I don't know if that's the case. We don't.
I mean,
because how
at
well do
least
you know
on the scene,
most
at least on the
comics?
scene. I mean, on the scene, that's what I think.
Yeah, but that's all the melody. You don't know them. And I don't mean that in a calling you out way. I mean that quite literally. We don't know. One of the big things of awareness is to recognize how much you don't know, and you don't know them.
So, okay, this is how I mean it. I mean that environment is not one that
Correct.
harbors that.
I agree.
That's what I mean. And so we, as a default, we fall into that frequency, and it's so unfulfilling to me. And it's not that I'm demanding to be fulfilled. It's just I feel tired. I feel exhausted from it, because I do want to know more. I want to know. I want to have like a deeper conversation or a connection, or ask certain questions like why.
Do you remember we were at the Improv? I don't know, end of last year. I don't remember who it all was. I know Amir was there in the parking lot.
You, me, Mike Falzone,
and Amir.
Mm-hmm.
And I was stoned, and I was doing bits, and Amir is always doing bits. It's a big way I connect. And I was having such a good time. And we don't know each other that well. And you came up, and I genuinely, I do like you. And and I mean that not to sound so patronizing. Like when you came up, I was like, fun. That's what I mean. Like you came up, oh, fun. Like, yeah, come be with this. And I remember I even said you were going to go, you had to get home or whatever. I'm like, do bits with us. And you did for a minute, then you had to go. And I didn't know if you really had to go or you didn't want to do bits. And it didn't matter either way. It just is what it is. I'm 22. I've been around people not wanting to be there. But like, was that draining for you? Was that draining? Is that what you mean?
It's not. Here's what's draining about it. It is my own narrative that I put before, during, and after it that's exhausting. Sometimes things just are, and they can be that can be enough for a lot of people. But I put so much stock into how are people feeling about me through this.
Yeah, I've been there. That's exhausting.
It's exhausting. And I don't think a lot of it is because of my speech or anything, because it's gotten so much better. I think it's what that process, that thought has now been, it's now a neuropath that I take all the time now, because of my injury and just the insecurity that got brought up because of it. And now that the physical representation or the physical manifestation of that anxiety is lessening, the neural pathway still exists. The problem still exists, which is that I am constantly worried. I'm constantly analyzing.
Me too.
And so to answer your question, I probably had another set. But I probably was so happy to get to that set because I struggle. I've had this conversation with maybe one other comic before. I've had this conversation with maybe one or two other comics, and they're close friends of mine. But I oftentimes don't feel like I have a place. I have a seat here at the table of comedy, and
as you're in your comedy throne. The biggest chair of any podcast I've ever been part of. The biggest seat you could have possibly have. You even have a step stool that matches the banana theme.
No. I mean, this wasn't meant to be compensating for that. But if it comes off as compensating, that's probably something I have to address as well.
Just like it looks like a big cock. I mean, it's. But no, obviously, I'm just recontextualizing that as a joke. So
anyway,
you don't
so-
feel like you have a place?
Yeah, and so that is what that I respect. I know Mike well. Of the four of us there in the parking lot, including myself. That's so silly. I was gonna say I know Mike the best. I would say I know Mike a little bit better than I know myself. And then there's you, and then there's Amir, who are both comics. I mean I respect everybody there immensely, but because I didn't know you super
Running
well.
for president.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying like I've known Mike and I started right around the same time. And so I've had conversations.
I don't know him very well.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known him for a while, but not well, and he is awesome.
Yeah, he's amazing, and well, all three of you guys are. And
Amir's one of my oldest friends in comedy.
Is he?
Yeah, right.
Amir's so
we
funny.
both started around the same time.
Amir is also his similarly his superpower is his presence.
Yeah, and his character work.
Yeah, Yep.
Man, is it good.
yeah.
I've talked about it on my podcast a few times. His characters they're not just amazing voices, which they are, but like he really taps into something. It's so fun.
Yeah. So that was what that day was. That day or that moment is just like I just,
Do you need a seat? Not to say that you wouldn't want one or it wouldn't feel good, but like the idea of not having a seat at the table versus having a seat at the table, that's one of the realities. Do you have a seat at the table? Do I not? Another one is there a seat to even be had? Like, is there a more socially nomadic experience where there isn't a seat to be had? And maybe we'll do this again, maybe we won't, but it's just about doing this thing with this person right now. And like, am I enjoying myself? Am I here with them? And that's all I can do. And maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Yes. I think I am such an evidence-based individual, and so if that's where it's not fair and it's not sustainable to put a lot of stock into external based accomplishments. Yeah.
Validation.
Yeah, validation. But I also think that's why a lot of us started doing this.
Yeah,
and-
it all exists and they feed each other. To say that I don't care what other people think is ridiculous. You don't have to let that overtake your self-value and self-esteem. But like, of course it matters. But also like, you and I aren't doing a podcast together, like hosting a podcast together every week. I am a guest, and next week a new guest will be here. Maybe I'll come on again. Maybe you'll come on mine. But like, it's just about this, right? You could have Obama on and you're going to feel like, oh my gosh. But like, it's just that. It's just that. You don't have to have the same seat at the table as him.
So you've never had that feeling? You've never had a thought of like...
I had it when Bill Burr came on, and I was in and out of it. I had a feeling I might, and I was in and out of it. And when I watched the episode, I was embarrassed. Should I even post this? And it's gotten such good response. And looking back on it, I made him laugh so much, or at least he laughed so much off of things I said. I say that because it's similar to like making a girl come. So I don't think I made her come. I just think that she came, and I was grateful to be a part of it. That's how I felt about making Bill laugh. He was probably in a mood that allowed him to laugh some, and I happened to have been, yes, rubbing his clit in a certain way, but, So yeah, I know what it is. It's definitely a human thing. I definitely get it, but that's because like I look up to him so much. I don't look up to that many people. So to feel that with someone I don't look up to, not that they're not as valuable, but they're definitely not as valuable, in my mind in this moment of, do I need to sell myself a certain way? I think there's value in recognizing that though too, though. Like there is some stuff that I probably I'm at a deficit where like, Rick, you're meeting the girlfriend's parents. You should probably, put your dick away. But like my dick's out. I'm a dick out guy. Now it's stubborn to be like, but sometimes you have to put your dick away, but also to accept that I'm a dick out guy. So that's why you meet the parents. Hello, I am a dick out guy. I put on the pants. Like that's the setting up the expectations or stuttering. Whatever the thing is, dick out or stuttering. Those are the deficits. But they're also the strengths. It's Rick Glassman of the Take Your Shoes Off podcast. Available wherever you blah, blah, blah. But we recommend YouTube. We do a lot of cameras on YouTube. Oh, you're switching when I look? We do a lot of We do a lot of edits. We do a lot of fun stuff. Nope, this one. Got you. And, it's good to be, that's it, Rick Glassman on Instagram or whatever, get my merch.
This is what I'll say, because our equipment's dying. I would love to continue this conversation at a different point.
I'd love to have you on my podcast.
Yeah.
You can take our shoes off.
Oh, that would be cool. Oh, is that?
That's what it's called.
Oh, that's...
It's like an easy one.
Oh, I see.
Because a lot of people are that way. Take your shoes off.
Yeah.
And then once you take your shoes off and come in, I'll say, keep everything on the blanket. Wash your hands. Don't touch that. Bring the mic a little bit closer. Fix your posture.
Oh, I can't wait for all
Yeah.
that.
It's
It's going to be exhausting.
you're going to be, get some sleep before it. So the audience can sleep during it.
Hey, come on.
I was just joking.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just like, come on. Like, that was
Oh,
so funny. But please not try to, like, put me down like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've enjoyed this conversation, and I mean this sincerely, Rick. This is a risk for me. I mean, it's a big deal to try and like, you put a lot of, like, and you invest in, like, a set and, like, a whole thing. And I realize that for me, I want to know more about other comics, but I want them to know more about me as well, because so much of the scene, and I maybe misspoke about, or not, I maybe misspoke about comics and them, that their frequency isn't that.
You
It's just
explained
that
the scene, that's all you see.
Yeah. And so in this setting, I think is one where I, get to know somebody or get to have an extra conversation where we can connect on that level. And I think there's a lot of things that similarities in, even in our differences, there's similarities in the way they the role that they play maybe in our lives or in our comedy. And so I'm appreciative of you letting me in on that and letting me ask questions about that, and getting me to feel just a little bit better about myself with it as well.
I definitely talked a ton.
That's a good thing, though. Okay,
of course it is. But also I definitely am aware of, like, me learning more about you. And I'd love to have you on my podcast where the roles could be reversed a little bit, and you could have a seat on my couch, a space there where I could ask more questions, because, I didn't even know about the injury, and I didn't ask you that much, and the things I did ask were more like in an effort to connect, of, like, if I said something that you related to, how so for you? But
well, it's okay. The goal of this podcast.
I'm not
yeah,
finished.
sorry.
And I just think it's important to just, like I have learned, you have to let the other person speak and be interested in, whatever the blah, blah, blah they have to complain about.
I don't think you're even saying anything.
Buddy. And I just think you're so funny, man. You had such a funny, you did such a funny podcast, dude.
Into the mic, Rick.
Yeah, you're such a funny comedian, and you have a thing, and, like, it is, and America's Got Talent, and
feels like
2020, and blah, blah, blah. And, like, it sounds like you really had a tough go at it, man. And you probably grew up a certain way.
Okay.
In a certain place, probably have a certain relationship with. You have any brothers or sisters? You don't have to tell me now, but
okay, yeah, sure.
I'll ask you on my podcast.
Okay.
Probably like the youngest or the oldest or the middle or whatever.
Are we doing your podcast?
No, I'm just saying, like, when you come on mine, we'll be like, oh, how's your family?
This just feels like an abridged version of your podcast.
Please, we're running out of time soon, right? I just want to get out 3 more minutes. I just want to get out what I was talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better and hearing things you have to say.
Okay.
So.
Thanks.
Drew?
Yes.
Drew, yeah. So, how do I get out of here?
I just think it's...
What's up?
We just talk about how your show needs to try to get revived.
Well, it isn't gone yet.
Well, no, I know, but no, I know. But I just, I mean...
Whatever, man. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, anything that you're going to say.
Thursday it might.
Anything that you have to say. Until you're on my podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry about your stutter. That seems like such a challenge.
That's all right, man. I'm sorry about your Asperger's.
You're not supposed to say that anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry about their Asperger's. So, not
I
dead
don't know
yet.
if you were trying to make a joke.
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't dream of it.
Yeah,
not
obviously.
So, Not Dead Yet is airing on ABC tonight. if this gets edited. I mean,
And
this
you could
is-
check it out on Hulu too. Or
you could. Oh yeah, you could check it out on Hulu.
check out as we, whatever. It doesn't
What is
matter.
Hulu? I've never, but I've.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so you could check out.
They get it.
just
Thank
check
you
out-
so much for having me.
Okay.
When we come on my podcast,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could tell people what stuff they could check out of mine.
Okay. Yeah.
Until then, this is another episode of Did I Stutter? Question mark, exclamation point. And as always, make sure you leave a comment, like and subscribe, click the bell. And if you do like this, in an effort to support the show and help keep, get us more footage on our memory cards, go to www.didistutter.com and just give us some, send in some money and say, this is, here's some money. We can maybe get a bigger chair to overcompensate for how you don't fit into society. Thanks for having me. This has been really, I've been here. Are you going to walk me? Are you going to show me? Because I was a little confused. Wait, before you end it, is it still going?
Drew's just died. Yours is going to die in 40 seconds.
All right, then I want to try something. I'm just trying to figure out how to say this. How much time do I have?
29 seconds on your single, and then the wide's good for an hour.
Oh, great. Well, then I could take my
This
time.
was silly. Yeah.
Do you have anything?
So where'd you grow up? Yeah.
Cleveland? And boy, are my arms tired. Theme music. Do you have a theme song?
Yeah. A little bit.
Cut to it now.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a dream that you had to do so much you could do anything?
Theme music again.
Have you ever had a dream that you had to do so much you could do anything?
Hey, dude, funny stuff.
Hey,
nice to
really
meet
good.
you, man.